The day Ethan Voss died the first time, he was the strongest hunter in the Northern Hemisphere. Not ranked, not estimated. Confirmed on record by the Global Hunter Registry, ranked Gate Class Clearance. The man who single-handedly sealed the abyssal rift above Seoul before it swallowed the city whole. That was the old life. That was 22 years from now. In that life, he burned everything, reached the top, and got a spike of void matter through his chest for the trouble. His last thought, bleeding out on the 97th floor of a dungeon that wasn't supposed to exist, was something embarrassing. Something along the lines of, "I should have rested more." He woke up at age 7 in a body he didn't own yet, staring at a water-stained ceiling in a Havenport City apartment with the full memory of a life he hadn't lived intact in his skull. It took him about 6 minutes to cry, not from grief, from the math. He was 22 years behind the version of himself that died. In a world he knew completely, with every dungeon break, every political shift, every academy scandal, every hidden treasure cache, every catastrophic event already mapped in his head. And he was 7 years old. The gap between what he was and what he could prove was the size of an ocean. So he did the only thing that made sense. He waited. He went to school. He ate cereal. He grew up slowly and deliberately, like someone building a fire in a rainstorm. Patient, invisible, unremarkable on purpose. The world in its current state is 2 years behind the first major catastrophe Ethan remembers. The global hunter infrastructure, academies, ranking systems, dungeon clearance guilds is stable but stretched thin. Every year, new dungeon gates open across the planet. Every year, another generation of awakened candidates floods the academies, hoping to rank high enough to matter. The Hunter Academy of Havenport sits in the middle tier of the national rankings. Not prestigious, not obscure, the kind of place where ambition comes to be tested and frequently humiliated. Red brick buildings, practice fields that smell of mana discharge and cut grass, lecture halls where the overhead projectors still flicker on cold mornings. Perfectly ordinary, exactly right. Ethan Voss enrolls at 17. He carries nothing impressive, a thin folder of average scores, a physical evaluation that reads unremarkable motor response, and a face people forget the moment he walks away. He has done this on purpose. The last thing he wants is attention. Attention means scrutiny. Scrutiny means someone eventually noticing that a supposed nobody has reflexes calibrated for S-rank combat, and that conversation is one he is absolutely not ready to have. The plan is simple. Stay invisible, stay patient, and let the world see exactly what he allows. The awakening ceremony is held on the first Friday of the semester in the Academy's main assessment hall. 48 new enrollees stand in staggered rows beneath fluorescent light and a large digital display board. The hall smells of industrial cleaner and nervous sweat, shoulders tight, jaws set. People who have waited their entire lives for this moment and only just realize they are terrified. At the front, a crystalline rank measurement obelisk pulses with soft blue light, a hunter resonance scanner. Touch the surface, hold contact for 3 seconds, and the crystal reads your mana density and combat potential. The result appears in one of 6 ranks, F through A. S ranks are so rare they aren't included in the standard range. If you're an S, the machine breaks. Ethan already knows what the machine is going to read. He has made very precise calculations about exactly how much of his actual capacity to suppress. The answer is almost all of it. He is going to let approximately 1% of his real stat line bleed through. Enough to register, enough to not be immediately expelled, no more. Instructor Ren conducts the ceremony. She's a D-rank veteran, mid-40s, with short, gray-streaked hair pulled back without fuss and eyes that have seen too many dungeons to be surprised by most things. She reads names with mechanical efficiency. The display board lights up. C rank, C rank, B rank. A startled gasp when one student pulls an A rank and the room briefly applauds. A young woman named Lyra Kane steps up next. The crystal flares bright gold, the purest color the board can produce, a rank. The room exhales in collective reverence. She steps back from the obelisk with the measured calm of someone who expected it. Dark hair, sharp posture, the particular stillness of someone who knows exactly who they are. Marcus Holt goes up next. The crystal turns violent crimson. A rank. Marcus turns to face the room with the grin of a man receiving confirmation of something he already knew. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the easy confidence of someone who has been the strongest in every room since middle school. He soaks the applause without hurry, without the faintest trace of gratitude. Then Ethan's name. He walks to the front, he touches the crystal, he holds contact. 3 seconds, 1%. He counts it out internally, like a controlled exhale, careful, precise, nothing wasted. The crystal dims. It doesn't flare, doesn't pulse, doesn't produce any dramatic display. It just dims, like a light being turned down rather than off. The board registers the reading with what feels like reluctance, hovering for half a second before resolving. E rank. The room doesn't applaud. It doesn't gasp. It produces something worse, a ripple of quiet. The particular silence of 47 people deciding simultaneously that this person is not worth remembering. A dry social erasure, completed in under 4 seconds. Instructor Ren writes it down without expression. Voss. E rank. She moves to the next name. Ethan walks back to his row. He keeps his face neutral. Inside his chest, something is grinning so hard it nearly cracks him open. Because the moment he touched that crystal, something dormant since the day he woke up at age 7 had activated. Void recompense system. Elite. Host rank confirmed. E base multiplier. X 100 active. All experience gains will be processed at 100 times standard rate. Current status. Invisible to external detection. Welcome back, Ethan Voss. He sits down, folds his hands, listens to the remaining names with the patience of someone who has already won and is waiting for the paperwork to catch up. E rank means he gets assigned to Training Squadron 8. The bottom bracket. The group the Academy keeps partly because dropping students entirely is bad for enrollment numbers, and partly because someone has to clear the low-level practice gates. Squadron 8 has 6 members. Ethan, who ranks last, and 5 others who range from nervous to furious about where they have landed. A nervous C-rank boy named Zeke Morrow who apologizes in advance for everything and means it every time. A D-rank girl named Priya who specializes in barrier magic and has the permanent hollow-eyed energy of someone operating on 3 hours of sleep by choice. 2 C-rank brothers, Dom and Finn, who communicate primarily through shoulder punches. And Vance, another E-rank, furious about it. Marcus Holt, from across the hall, catches Ethan's eye on the way out of the assessment chamber. He looks at him the way a large predator looks at something that doesn't register as prey. Not threatening, not hostile, just categorically unimportant. The assessment lasts half a second. Then Marcus looks away. It is the most dangerous half second Marcus will ever waste. The first week is orientation, physical drills, mana circulation theory, dungeon protocol lectures. Ethan performs every exercise at exactly 60% of what someone ranked E should be capable of. He fails 3 of 5 combat timing drills on purpose. He lets the mana circulation result come back marked below standard in red. He writes notes at a pace suggesting careful attention. What nobody in the building knows is that every drill Ethan runs triggers the system's multiplier on the back end. The combat timing drill he fails still registers partial mana output, multiplied by 100. After 7 days of deliberately failing orientation drills, his hidden stat growth is equivalent to roughly 8 months of intensive practice for the average B-rank student. He doesn't look any different. He eats the cafeteria food. He turns in average homework. He sleeps 8 hours a night. He looks, by every visible metric, like the most boring E-rank in the history of the Academy. A person who is present because leaving would require effort, and effort is apparently not his thing. Zek asks him at dinner on Thursday over bowls of rice and overcooked protein if he's thinking of dropping out. He asks it gently, the way you ask when you're prepared to accept any answer. Why would I do that? Ethan says. I just figured, E-rank and all, it must be tough. Zeke is genuine about it. Ethan finds this mildly disarming. It's fine, Ethan says. I'll figure it out. Zeke nods, visibly relieved, which is strange, because nothing said was particularly reassuring. Zeke is the kind of person who finds reassurance in the fact that other people haven't given up yet, as though persistence is itself a form of hope regardless of direction. Ethan files this away. Zeke is going to be important. The first practical assessment is announced at the end of week 2. A supervised dungeon dive in Gate Theta 3, a sealed training gate on the Academy's southern grounds, framed by chain-link perimeter and warning lights nobody takes seriously. Theta 3 is a D-rank gate. For Squadron 8, technically above their average rank threshold. They go in with Instructor Ren observing. Ethan has cleared Theta 3 in his previous life. 17 times. It was a standard grinding gate for low-level hunters in the early years of his career. He knows the spawn pattern, the blind spots, the aggro trigger radius for the alpha on sub-level 2, and the location of a hidden material cache most teams miss because the wall looks solid but resonates hollow. They enter at 9 on a Tuesday. Gray sky, cold air, the kind of autumn morning that smells like concrete and rain. Theta 3 opens as a vertical descent, a spiral staircase carved into dark volcanic stone, lit by bioluminescent moss pulsing a slow, sickly green every 4 seconds. The air is 10 degrees colder the moment they cross the gate membrane. Dom draws his combat blade immediately. Finn activates his kinetic gauntlets with a crackling sound. Vance summons his wind thread skill, a shimmer visible around his fingertips. Priya assembles a barrier formation before they've descended 30 steps, geometry clicking into place with practiced efficiency. She's better than her rank implies. Ethan makes a note. He keeps his hands in his jacket pockets. The first spawn, 3 Ironback Hounds, D rank, moving in a triangular formation. Dom charges, Finn flanks right, Vance cuts wind threads to disrupt the formation's cohesion. Priya's barrier intercepts the third Hound's charge, while Zeke fires C-rank binding shots from the rear. Technically too weak to hold an Ironback, but enough to slow it for Dom to close distance and finish. They are not elegant. They make 3 positioning errors, one of which nearly costs Finn a forearm. But they function, they breathe, they survive. Ethan watches from the rear. He reads the flow of the fight, the gaps in positioning, the 3 distinct moments where a cleaner solution existed and none of them saw it. He notes them. He says nothing. Passive EXP gain, plus 400. Tactical processing bonus, plus 200, 600 EXP from standing with his hands in his pockets, watching. Sublevel 2 is where it changes. The alpha spawn in Theta 3 is a stoneback ogre, C rank, 3 meters of dense muscle and impact-resistant hide, slow but nearly immune to standard D rank physical strikes. For Squadron 8, this is above threshold. The ogre emerges from the right chamber. Dom advances anyway, because Dom is not the kind of person who checks threat probabilities before moving. The ogre backhands him into the wall with one swipe, not brutally, just efficiently. Dom hits the stone and slides down it and doesn't get up immediately, one hand pressed flat against the volcanic rock, just staying there. Finn shouts something that isn't a word. Vance launches 3 wind threads that the ogre walks through without slowing, the shimmer dissolving against its hide like mist on glass. Priya's barrier holds the first 2 pushes. On the third, it cracks down the center. Zeke, at the rear, looks at Ethan. His eyes are very wide. Ethan. I know, Ethan says. He steps forward. He makes a specific, careful internal calculation. He is going to use exactly enough force to stagger the ogre without revealing actual capability. The cover story, a lucky strike, adrenaline, the unpredictable pressure spike that sometimes occurs in low-rank hunters under extreme combat stress. The Academy has documented this phenomenon. It even has a name. Pressure Bloom. He steps inside the ogre's reach, the opposite of everything the survival instinct in an E-rank body should broadcast. Plants his right foot and drives a single palm strike into the creature's sternum. He uses approximately 4% of his calibrated output. The ogre staggers back 2 full meters. Its heels drag grooves in the volcanic stone. The ogre hits the wall with a hollow boom, shaking its head with the confusion of something large struck by something it dismissed entirely. Priya's jaw is open. Zeke makes a sound that is not a word. Instructor Ren writes on her clipboard. Her pen does not slow down. The ogre resets. Ethan is already back in position, hands in pockets. By Priya, enough time to rebuild the barrier, Ethan says to the air in front of him. Then Dom and Finn bait it toward the column on the left. The stone is softer there. The column will shatter on impact, and the falling debris breaks its rear guard positioning. 2 strikes after that, and it's done. A silence. 2 full seconds. Priya starts rebuilding. Dom pushes off the wall and limps toward the left column without a word. Finn positions for the bait. The ogre charges, Dom sidesteps, the column shatters. Debris disrupts the ogre's footing exactly as described. 2 strikes, and the alpha drops. Clean. Efficient. Nothing like the desperate, scrambling fight that produced the plan. Ren says, on the spiral staircase, on the way back up, Voss, instructor, that strike. Adrenaline, Ethan says. I won't be able to replicate it. She looks at him for a long moment. The look of someone who has been teaching long enough to know when a student is giving the technically correct answer as a substitute for the true one. She looks at him the way you look at a document where the signature is right but the ink is wrong. She writes something on her clipboard and does not pursue it, but she does not dismiss it either. She puts it somewhere. That's the thing about Instructor Ren. She does not forget. Dungeon dive complete. EXP gain, plus 1 in 80,000. Level up X12. He reads the notification on the walk back to the dormitory. 12 levels from 1 beginner dungeon dive. His teammates will recover with sore muscles and a story that grows in every retelling. He closes the system menu, walks through the campus gate into the thin autumn light, face entirely blank, the corner of his mouth doing something he stops before it becomes visible. Zeke catches up near the main building entrance, slightly out of breath. He walks beside him in silence for a moment, then that strike. Adrenaline, Ethan says. Zeke looks at him the way people look at a door they're not sure is locked. He looks at it for 3 seconds. Right, he says finally. Adrenaline. He does not sound convinced. He does not sound like he's going to push it. That's the other thing about Zeke. He has the rare undervalued quality of knowing when not to ask the question he has already answered for himself. The Academy runs an internal ranking tournament in the 5th week, the Bracket Trials. In theory, a performance evaluation. In practice, a status display. The A ranks perform in the main arena for full faculty observation and 100 spectators. The B and C ranks compete in the mid-tier hall. The D and E ranks run a separate low-attention bracket in a side gymnasium, a courtesy event, the kind that exists because fairness requires it and institutional interest doesn't. Ethan is seated last in the ED bracket. His first-round opponent is Vance, his own squad mate, who despite being the same rank, has been training obsessively since the ceremony and has convinced himself this fight will confirm something he needs confirmed. It will confirm something, just not what Vance thinks. The bracket ring is a standard combat platform, 20 meters across, padded perimeter, track lighting that makes everyone look slightly pale. Vance opens with his full kit. Wind threads active, rapid positioning, a physical enhancement skill he has been working on all week. He is genuinely fast for his rank. His footwork is clean, his aggression timed. He launches at Ethan with the full energy of someone who has been storing frustration as fuel since the day the crystal dimmed. Ethan sidesteps. Not dramatically, not visibly fast. He just isn't there when Vance arrives at the coordinates where he was standing a moment before. Vance overcorrects momentum, carrying him half a step further than planned. Ethan steps left, places a flat palm against the back of Vance's shoulder blade, and applies the minimum force necessary to redirect the existing momentum. Vance trips. He charges again. 3 more times over the next 90 seconds, Ethan performs variations on the same sequence. Minimal movement, minimal contact, leveraging Vance's own force against his own balance. He doesn't strike. He doesn't generate visible mana. He redirects, intercepts, repositions. On the 4th exchange, Vance overextends badly enough that his hand touches the mat outside the ring boundary. Point. Match. Polite applause, the specific kind given to results that are technically correct but aesthetically unsatisfying. Vance stands slowly, looking at Ethan with the expression of a man doing arithmetic on something that will not resolve. "You didn't fight," he says. "I won," Ethan says. "That's not the same thing. Today it is." Vance has no answer for that. He advances through the bracket with identical performances, never visually impressive, never explainable as anything other than good spatial awareness and opponent error. He wins every match without generating visible mana, without drawing any output of scanner register, without doing anything that looks like a skill. In the faculty section, Instructor Ren marks each result in her notes, 2 entries underlined. Tournament performance, EXP gain, plus 620,000. Level up X31. Current effective combat level, approaching S rank lower boundary, 31 levels from a low bracket academic tournament the A ranks didn't even watch. He folds the paper cup at the water station, drops it in the bin, walks toward the dormitory. From the main arena, another surge of applause as Marcus closes out his bracket. Lyra Kane is outside the dormitory entrance. She doesn't look like she's waiting for him. She's standing against the wall with a tablet, stylus in hand, the image of someone absorbed in work. But she looks up when he approaches and does not look back down. She was waiting for him specifically. He recognizes the social mechanic. He used it himself, once. Voss. Kane. I watched your bracket today. The main arena was right there. Must have been more exciting. More impressive, she says. Not more interesting. She studies him. 0 visible mana output, but you've predicted your opponent's next movement before they commit every match. That's not lucky positioning. Could be pattern recognition, he says. I read a lot. Could be, she says. Technically agreement, functionally the opposite. I'm going to keep watching. That's your right, he says. She goes inside. He stays on the steps, running the calculation. She is sharper than expected. Not combat sharp. Lyra was never the fighter. She was the reader. The person who watched what others did and understood the grammar of it before anyone else in the room. She will need to be managed carefully. What he does not expect is what happens 6 days later. The first indication is a low-frequency vibration in the ground at 7:14 a.m. on a Wednesday during morning drills on the Eastern training field. Ethan feels it before anyone else registers it. Not because his senses are active, because he remembers this. Gate Gamma 9, the unstable training gate on the Academy's eastern perimeter, flagged since August, classified as low risk at current drift rates, is going to rupture its seal in approximately 4 minutes. A C-rank gate surge with a probability of alpha spawn escalation. In his previous life, this break injured 11 students and 1 instructor before the emergency response team sealed it. He was not at this academy. He did not stop it. He read about it years later as a footnote in a gate management report, already past caring. He is here now. He has 4 minutes. He walks directly to instructor Ren, who is running the drill formation with her back to the east perimeter. Gamma 9 is going to break, he says. She turns from the drill line. The gate stability readings were within acceptable range as of, I know what the readings say. Check the ground resonance. A pause, please. Something in his voice, the flat certainty of it, the total absence of performance anxiety, the precise register of a person stating a fact, makes her pull out her field reader without further conversation. She runs the scan. Her face changes. It's spiking. Hard. She is already on comms. How did you? 4 minutes. The surge front will breach at the east wall junction. Reposition the A-rank students there now, and you can contain the front wave before it reaches the courtyard. She issues the positions. Students begin to move. The campus shifts from drill to emergency. The break happens in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Exactly as he knew. The east wall junction ruptures. A vertical tear in the gate membrane 4 meters wide, emitting blue-white light and a pressure wave of cold dungeon air that flattens the grass in a ring outward. C-rank creatures flood through first. Shatter imps, small and fast and venomous, swarming in packs. Marcus Holt is first to contact, mana output blazing crimson, clearing the front wave with a force shock wave that takes out 11 imps in a single motion. Efficient, brutal, entirely correct. He is, Ethan acknowledges privately, very good at the thing he is good at. Then the alpha breaches. It is not what the historical record predicted. The instability pattern has shifted. What comes through is a gate warden, an A-rank dungeon guardian class. 8 feet of bipedal mass clad in crystallized gate matter plating that makes it structurally immune to anything below A-rank physical threshold. Its eyes are deep amber, the color of stored mana compressed into something almost solid. It sweeps the area with the mechanical efficiency of a creature designed to protect something. Marcus charges, no hesitation, full output. His force shockwave hits the warden square in the chest and dissipates against the crystalline plating without effect. Not even stagger, not even sound, just absorption. The warden's arm comes forward in a measured, deliberate sweep, and Marcus goes sideways. He hits the courtyard stone, gets up immediately. Gets hit with more force the second time. This time he stays on one knee, one fist on the ground, blood running from above his left eye, catching his breath. The A-rank students are landing strikes on the warden's plating. The plate absorbs everything. Lyra runs barrier calculations with rapid efficiency. Excellent work, but fractionally too slow for A-rank contact force. A support-type student named Ren drifts into the warden's range. Ethan has been standing at the courtyard's eastern edge, watching, running a different kind of calculation. Gate wardens have a specific vulnerability the standard hunter curriculum doesn't reach for another 2 years. The crystalline plate is nearly impervious to external force at its surface, but the joint connections at the shoulder, hip, and neck are made of gate membrane residue. Softer in the relevant way. A concentrated strike with mana tuned to frequency 4.7 on the harmonic index, the gate resonance signature of this creature's origin, will fracture the plate at the joints. Once cracked, the warden drops to near D-rank equivalence. Standard hunters don't know this. It isn't in any curriculum yet. He knows it because in his previous life he taught it, 11 years from now. He cannot explain how he knows this. Not in any version of the conversation that ends well. 90 seconds before someone gets killed. Lyra's containment grid is too slow. Marcus is preparing a second charge that will go identically to the first. Ren, a B-rank support type who should not be in the front line, is 2 steps from the warden's range. Ethan moves. Not running. Walking with the measured pace of someone who has crossed a threshold and stopped pretending. He crosses the courtyard, steps past 2 students throwing support strikes at the warden's back, and positions himself 6 feet to its right. The warden notices him the way Marcus did in the assessment hall, categorically unimportant. That half second of dismissal is everything he needs. He tunes his mana to 4.7 harmonic frequency. No volume, no force, a whisper at the exact resonant pitch of gate membrane tissue. He directs it at the warden's right shoulder joint. The crystal there shivers, a hairline fracture invisible at this distance. He shifts and applies the same pulse to the neck joint, steps back, hands loose at his sides. The warden raises its arm to sweep him aside. The motion puts full mechanical stress through the compromised shoulder joint. The plate gives enough. The sweep loses structural force and the arc goes wide, the wind of it pulling at Ethan's jacket, but nothing more. He steps inside the arc, plants, and drives a single open palm strike into the neck joint fracture point. 9% of his calibrated output contained. directed. The warden's neck plate fractures. Pieces separate and fall. The creature's mana circulation breaks. It staggers. One step, two, drops to one knee. The amber in its eyes dims to pale gray, then to nothing. It falls forward, and the courtyard stone rings with a ton of crystallized gate matter coming to rest. Silence. The kind that follows something that should not have been possible. Marcus Holt stares at the warden, then at Ethan. His expression is not the look of someone who has been saved. It is the look of a man whose personal arithmetic has just produced a number he cannot reconcile, and who finds this profoundly unsettling in a way that translates immediately to irritation. Lyra has stopped building her grid. Both hands lowered, stylus motionless, watching Ethan with the expression of someone whose hypothesis has just been confirmed and who is making very fast decisions about what to do with the information. Instructor Ren at the perimeter has stopped writing. Her clipboard is at her side. She is adding small numbers and has finally arrived at the sum. Ethan looks at his hand, flexes it once, looks up at the circle of faces. Pressure bloom, he says. The adrenaline thing. I had it again. Fortunate timing. It is objectively the worst lie he has told across 2 lifetimes. It is also the only lie available. He commits to it with the flat calm of a man who has decided audacity is armor. He walks to the emergency equipment mount, lifts a pressure bandage, and walks to Marcus. The bleeding above Marcus's eye needs tending, and this is not a moment for anyone to think about what just happened, so he creates a different moment on top of it. Marcus looks at the bandage, looks at Ethan. Unusual pressure blooms, Marcus says. He takes it. Runs in the family, Ethan says. The emergency response team arrives 8 minutes after the breach seal. Gate Gamma 9 is closed. The surge pack is cleared. Casualty count, 4 students with minor injuries, none critical. The gate warden is logged in the official incident report as terminated by combined A-rank engagement forces, with a contributing note about gate matter structural failure at the joint level. Nobody in the courtyard can agree on exactly what they saw. The 2 accounts that most clearly describe Ethan's actions were filed under perception distortion, under high-stress combat conditions, a documented phenomenon, and therefore a useful pocket for inconvenient data. Instructor Ren filed a supplemental observation form. Exit gain, plus 8,200,000. Level up X47. S-rank lower boundary confirmed. 47 levels from a single campus emergency. He sits outside the medical wing, reading the notification with a blank face. Around him, the academy continues. Boots on gravel, voices in the distance, repair equipment cutting through the autumn air. Somewhere in the building, Marcus is getting stitches in silence. Somewhere else, Lyra Kane is writing in a notebook she doesn't show anyone. Zeke finds him on the bench without being summoned. He sits without being invited. Then, I keep doing that math, he says. What math? The math where you're E rank and you just stop something 3 A ranks couldn't dent. The math doesn't resolve. A pause. Not accusatory, just arithmetical. Ethan. I'm not going to tell anyone, Zeke says. I mean that literally.
If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like these. So go ahead and subscribe to help us hit that milestone. And don't forget to share your opinion about the story.